The changes outside have been tremendous. Everyone is a valuable prey with their head as the prize. Because human heads are very valuable now, worth a whole billion. Poor Agoo has been hiding all along. If you're hungry, just pick up trash to eat. Drink the dirty water by the roadside when you're thirsty. Even the police are after him. He has no idea what he did wrong. On this day, he saw a cosmetic surgery hospital. His life finally changed, holding all the family's assets. He hopes the doctor can help him get surgery to become a pig-headed person. But this doctor is a genius. He not only doesn't charge money, and I've long wanted to try turning a human head into a pig's head. However, this surgery has a significant drawback. After getting plastic surgery to look like a pig's head, most of the facial nerves have irreparable damage. Therefore, it is impossible to return to being human again. But Agoo still agreed without hesitation, as long as we no longer face this inhumane discrimination. A month later, Agoo also turned into a pig-headed man. Life begins to return to normal. After this ordeal, Agoo is more resourceful than before. He didn't let any of those who had bullied him get away. The two previous lackeys kept pleading with Agoo to spare them. But who can understand the pain of Agoo being locked in the laboratory? So he vented his anger on them even more ruthlessly. Agoo thought his hard days had finally come to an end. But he never expected. The world has begun to change again. That day in class, the teacher transformed back into a human head, and, according to reliable sources, soon everyone will gradually return to normal. Everyone was very excited to hear this news. Only Agoo broke out in a cold sweat right there, not long after. The people on the street are indeed slowly returning to normal. It seems this virus has appeared mysteriously. Once again, it ended inexplicably. Even Agoo's parents turned back into human heads. Looking at the pig-headed Agoo, he seemed very disdainful. Agoo recalled what the doctor had said to him. After turning into a pig's head, it's impossible to bring the head back. So, a little over a month later, everyone in the school turned back into a human head. Then Agoo was ostracized by the entire school again. Those people said again after school, just use firecrackers to blow up his pants. Agoo suddenly broke out in a cold sweat, because now in the whole world, only Agoo is left as the sole pig-head. Chapter 16. Ghost Fuel Incident. Have you heard about the shocking Liaoning ghost refueling incident? A man drove a ghostly car to the gas station late at night to refuel. The next day, the employees found Ming coins while counting the cash. The strangeness of the situation may exceed your understanding. Suggest to tag your friends to watch together. The story takes place in October 2017 in Chaoyang County, Liaoning Province. One night, Mei is working the night shift alone at a gas station, just as she entered the room to rest for a moment. Suddenly, a strong beam of car headlights flashed outside. She knew someone had come to refuel, so he hurriedly ran out. Ask the guest if they want 93 or 97. But that person did not answer Mei's words, just pointed at the 93 fuel pump. Mei instinctively glanced at the guest's car. But I find the shape of this car particularly strange. She had never seen a car shaped like a cube before. Moreover, that car gives off a very eerie and sinister feeling. Finally, Mei searched for a long time before finding the fuel inlet. At the same time, I wondered if this person had a problem with their mind, transforming the car into this monstrous appearance. One can imagine that the person who modified the car like this must have significant connections. Otherwise, I would definitely get fined by the traffic police. After finishing refueling, Mei informed that person about the oil prices. But that person still had a stern expression and said nothing. He took out a brand new 200 coin from his pocket and gave it to her. Han Mei felt that this person's expression was gloomy and their behavior was strange. He carefully took the money from her hand, then carefully checked the authenticity of the money. After repeated verification, there is no problem with the money. That strange person drove away in a square car. But on the second day, strange things happened. It was almost 8 in the morning. The day shift workers came to take over. The person on duty is counting the cash collected from last night according to the procedure, just as she counted to 1,000, but suddenly found 2 coins inside. She asked Han Mei if she was very busy last night and got deceived. 2 red banknotes were added to this cash. This statement startled Han Mei, because there weren't many people who came to refuel last night. Moreover, the money has all been carefully checked by her. The manager passing by happened to overhear their conversation, to avoid wronging Han Mei. Then I asked them to check last night's surveillance video. Suddenly, the strange square vehicle slowly approached. Then Han Mei appeared in front of the camera. It seems to be greeting the car owner. Everything is fueling up according to the normal procedure. Just as Han Mei was checking out, 2 banknotes suddenly appeared in her hand. But in the scene, she was always alone. There was no sign of that strange car owner at all. Han Mei seemed to be talking to the air from beginning to end. Seeing this, the manager suspected that this car was made of paper waste. These words nearly scared Han Mei into an early retirement, because she remembered seeing this car last night. The entire time, I didn't hear any sound from that car, as if emerging from the depths of the underworld. I finished watching the surveillance video. Everyone thinks that Han Mei encountered a ghost last night. From that day on, Han Mei has quit her job at the gas station. A man ran to the police station in the middle of the night to report a case. I said I killed someone in my dream. The reporter and the deceased are over 3,800 kilometers apart. The time of reporting the case and the time of the deceased's death, yet only 6 hours apart. The level of strangeness in this matter may exceed your understanding. Suggest to tag your friends to watch together. The story takes place in a hotel in Tengchong, Yunnan in 2009. On this day, while the waiter was cleaning, I found a handprint outside the door. Upon opening the door, I found a dead body lying in the room, and there is blood everywhere. The hotel quickly reported to the police. The police found a murder weapon, a fruit knife, at the scene, and found a footprint on the ground that did not belong to the deceased. The police quickly retrieved the surveillance footage from that day. The video is blurry, but I could vaguely see an adult man passing through the corridor, and there are obvious bloodstains on the body. But strangely, it did not appear again in the corner surveillance. It seems as if people have vanished into thin air. The police immediately issued a reward notice. But after a week, there was still no clue. A suspect is likely not a local. Meanwhile, a strange thing happened in Tianjin. One day, a person suddenly burst into the police station. The man, covered in blood, said he had killed someone. This startled the on-site police. A person introduced himself as Lai Zhongping, is a resident of this city. He said he went to bed around 10 p.m. last night, but later he had a strange dream. In his dream, he arrived at a strange tunnel. I felt dizzy and disoriented as soon as I entered the tunnel. Suddenly, a shadow appeared in front of him. A man picked up a knife and lunged at him. But Lai Zhongping noticed the man's movements, just like a slow-motion scene in a movie. Very dull. But for oneself, everything is normal. He effortlessly snatched the knife from the man's hand. The knife plunged toward the person in the dream who wanted to harm me. He repeatedly emphasized. Knowing this was a dream, he dared to act this way. When he saw that person fall before him, although I know it's in a dream, but I also panicked, because he never thought of killing. Even in dreams there is no me. Suddenly he was pulled into the tunnel by a strange force again. He said when he woke up again, I found myself covered in blood, wearing my clothes. The police officer listened to him finish this dream. Everyone thinks he might have a mental issue. They conducted visits to the neighbors near Lai Jianping. However, nothing unusual was found. The police then collected Lai Jianping's fingerprints. Just let him go back. But just 2 days later, the police received a murder case cooperation notice from Yunnan. The police officer discovered during the on-site evidence comparison that the fingerprint surprisingly matches that of a local citizen, and this person is the one who reported the case a couple of days ago, Lai Jianping, who claims to have killed in his dreams. The police compared the bloodstains on Lai Jianping's clothes again. The discovery truly belongs to the victim of the Yunnan murder case. The man in the corridor surveillance footage closely resembled Lai Jianping. The time of the murder and Lai Jianping's report was only 6 hours apart. However, the distance from Tianjin to Tengchong in Yunnan is 3,840 kilometers. This left the police officer feeling incredulous. Lai Jianping was quickly taken to the police station again. But this time he was brought back in handcuffs, refusing to be arrested. He became extremely agitated after learning he had killed someone, repeatedly emphasized that it was just a dream. Later, the police conducted a lie detector test on him, but the test results showed that he did not lie after 3 attempts, although the results of a lie detector test cannot be used as definitive evidence. But the result also led the case into an unsolvable predicament. Later, the police visited the airport that day, train station, bus station, but there are no car records from the day of the incident. It's impossible to drive over 3,800 kilometers in just 6 hours. Moreover, Lai Jianping neither had a car nor a driver's license. The police investigated the surveillance footage at Lai Jianping's home. That evening around 6 o'clock, Lai Jianping picked up his son. Once I got home, I didn't go out again. The victim of the Yunnan murder case. He died after returning to the hotel at 9:45 p.m. During these 3 hours, Lai Jianping could not possibly have arrived at the scene to commit the crime. All evidence fails to indicate that Lai Jianping is the murderer. So the tunnel in the dream, it became an important direction for the police to unravel the mystery. But this statement is hard for people to accept. Old Lai, who was nearby, said that this kind of thing has indeed happened before, and not just once. CCTVs closer to science once reported about a person flying in their dreams. Appeared 1,000 miles away overnight without any means of transportation. Someone abroad also appeared in a neighboring country within an hour. He claimed he fell into a funnel-shaped tunnel. After Lai Jianping had been detained for a month, they were ultimately released due to insufficient evidence. As for the tunnel in his dream, no one knows if it's real or not. Do you really think such tunnels exist? This is the scene between Haoan City in Xinai County, Henan, that shocked the internet in 1998. One day in October 1998, a small, thin monkey was chasing a man with a knife in the street. The injured man. By coincidence, I bumped into officer who had just gotten off work. At that moment, the man seemed to have found a savior. Someone is trying to kill me. Officer who, as pointed out by the man, but discovered a small, fierce-looking monkey with harmful nearsightedness. Officer who looked on with confusion, but still it immediately pounced towards the attacking monkey. But that monkey seemed to have a spirit and actually turned and ran away. Officer Who could only return helplessly. First, the injured man was taken to the hospital. However, Officer Who did not know that. The monkey that just escaped is now following the two of them. The gaze still revealed a fierce light. Captain Kin, upon hearing this matter, hurriedly arrived at the hospital to inquire about the reason for the incident. According to the injured man's account, I am a performer who entertains with monkeys. Just because the monkey I raised for several years misbehaved a few days ago. I hit him a few times myself. He harbored resentment and wanted to kill himself. However, the man had just said this. A furious knocking sound suddenly came from the window behind. The people inside turned their heads. It turns out to be that hurtful monkey. At this moment, that monkey actually resembled a human. With a resentful gaze, she fixed her eyes on the man in bed. When Captain Kin and the other person arrived at the window, the monkey jumped up and left first. Captain Kin felt very confused about this. Logically speaking, raising a monkey for several years, one should never kill their master just because they were hit a few times. I believe that monkey will come here tonight to commit murder again. Indeed, when the night is deep and quiet, the figure of the monkey appeared outside the window again. The monkey saw that only the injured man was lying on the bed inside the house, quickly raised the knife and lunged at the man. Unbeknownst to them, this was a trap set by Captain Kin and his partner. After catching the monkey, Captain Kin was surprised to find that the monkey ignored the two of them. Still glaring fiercely at the man playing with the monkey, he roared. Captain Kin expressed that, "If the man doesn't speak the truth again, I can only let this monkey go. After all, a monkey does not need to bear legal responsibility." After hearing Captain Kin's words, the man, looking terrified, was willing to tell the truth, just hoped to be honest and receive a lighter sentence. It turns out the man is really a monkey performer, but this hurtful monkey does not belong to me, but rather from a companion of his own. Two people perform monkey tricks together. Ming Ming has two monkeys, but each time the earnings are less than a third of my companion's. So the man killed his companion out of hatred for Du Sheng, and this scene happened to be seen by the companion monkey. Then the monkey seemed to have a spirit of its own and started to hunt itself down. After the incident was resolved, people unanimously believe it was when the monkey's master was on his deathbed. The resentment possessed a monkey to take revenge. An 18-year-old girl strives to carry on her dying boyfriend's legacy. Unexpectedly, she and her boyfriend started doing a nucleic acid test on the lawn. It turns out that the boy in front of me has leukemia, often stands behind the girl covering her eyes. And the girl knew without guessing that it was that familiar face. As soon as he turned around, the boy kissed him. As feelings deepen, they become bolder, finally enjoying the last moments on the lawn. A few days later, the boy left the girl behind. By the time the girl stood before the grave again, she was nearly ready to give birth. It turns out she became pregnant after that time. The girl reminisces about the little moments spent with the boy. Tears are already streaming down her face. At that moment, someone suddenly covered her eyes with their hand. The girl screamed in fright. Looking back, I realized it was the boy's ghost. But the girl was not scared by the boy's ghost. Instead, they happily kissed each other like before. The next day, the girl arrived at the hospital and gave birth to the child. The girl returned to the boy's grave, holding the child in her arms. The adorable baby looked at Mama with pure joy, but the girl started to cry unknowingly. Suddenly, the baby covered the girl's eyes just like her dad. The girl was shocked by the baby's actions, looking at the baby's innocent cheeks. In this moment, she was completely warmed by the feeling of being a mother. The girl deeply kissed the treasure she left behind. Days pass one by one. On that day, an elderly woman had her eyes covered from behind. It turns out that little boy has grown up, but the girl has already grown old. As she grew older, the girl took a seat in a wheelchair, but fortunately her child accompanied her throughout this life. Do you know why banana trees can't be planted in the yard? The story takes place in Shanxitang Village, Nanjing County, Fujian. Many young people here go out to work. Only a few people stayed in the village to farm. Everyone gathered at the village entrance to play cards in their spare time. A disheveled beggar walked over from a distance, until he stepped forward to greet a few people. Everyone then realized that this beggar was Lai Zhongbing from the village. Seeing his outfit, no one was surprised. He never hides the activities he engages in outside. Every time we talk about it, he proudly claims that city folks are easy to fool, wearing tattered clothes and pretending to be deaf and mute, kneeling in front of the bustling city center. A broken bowl lay in front. There will be an endless stream of money he took out from his pocket. At that time, even the village chief was reluctant to buy the beggar. Every time, others tease him by asking how he's doing out there. Lai Zhongbing just smiled widely. Then the head shook like a wave drum. It's tough out there. It's better to cultivate that 1 mu and 3 fen of land in the village. Everyone understands that he says he doesn't make money, but they must have made a lot of money outside. Behind his back, they were envious, jealous, and hateful towards Lai Zhongbing. Chat with a few people for a while. Lai Zhongbing picked up a few torn clothes from the table and said, "Let's tidy up before going home. Casually invite a few people for drinks." As soon as I got home, I took off the wig. He is the only one left in the house now. One person is full, and the whole family isn't hungry. The next morning, Lai Zhongbing gathered several demolition teams from the village. The villagers gathered around after hearing the commotion. A few years ago, Lai Zhongbing was known as a notorious slacker. Even eating is a problem. Now I actually have some spare money to build a new house. Lai Zhongbing said proudly that he built a good house. Just marry another wife. Lai Zhongbing has only been begging for a year. Now they've turned into wealthy tycoons. Instead, I've diligently built for over 10 years. Can't even cover the cost of a house. The onlookers felt quite puzzled. By evening, the house had nearly been torn down. I saw a banana tree in the yard causing a problem. Lai Zhongbing had the demolition team take it down. But a few people exchanged glances and didn't make a move. Lai Zhongbing came here with his father when he was young, so I'm not particularly familiar with some customs and sayings. The demolition team explained it to him. If the banana tree is growing outside or in the field, it can be cut down at will. However, the banana trees generally planted in the yard are used to scare away ghosts. Upon hearing this, Lai Zhongbing's shiny bald head set off an uproar. If this banana tree is a spirit, isn't that a roundabout way of saying there's a ghost in his house? Lai Zhongbing's expression grew increasingly grim. The others also stepped forward to agree that the tree should not be cut down. Seeing this, Lai Zhongbing angrily drove the few people out. In the evening, I grabbed a few bottles of wine, looking for my late father's old friend, Lao Zhang, to have a drink. At the dinner table, I complained to Lao Zhang about the demolition team. Lao Zhang filled his glass to the brim. Advise him not to be angry. There is indeed a saying about planting banana trees in the yard. Old Zhang sighed. Ask him if he still remembers how his father died. Lai Zhongbing was taken aback. Everyone in the village knows that when he was a child, father died suddenly from a heart attack. It turns out that old Zhang and Lai Zhangping's father were comrades in arms. Later, the family of three struggled to develop back in their hometown. So I went to seek refuge with old Zhang. After moving here, I bought this courtyard. One year, my mother wanted to grow some vegetables in the backyard. Let Lai Zhangping's father chop down the banana tree in the backyard. Before long, I heard my father scream from the backyard. Lai Zhangping wanted to go forward to see what was wrong with his father, but was stopped by the neighbor. Later, I only heard my mother tell him that my father died suddenly of a heart attack. Lao Zhang picked up a glass of wine. They said that Lai Zhangping was young at that time, so they deceived him. In fact, his father died from fright, and the cause of death was particularly terrifying. But no one knew what had scared him to death. Lao Zhang continued to tell Lai Zhangping about the history of this house. The original man often abused his wife at home, and the strikes were heavy-handed. Once I accidentally killed my wife without holding back, but no one knows where he buried his wife. Later, the man inexplicably went crazy. When meeting someone, they say there are ghosts. When Lai Zhangping's father came to visit the house, there is a banana tree in the backyard, because it's cheap. Later, they bought the house. Although at that time, old Zheng strongly advised against buying this property. But Lai Zhangping's father said that his iron casting was a life and death misfortune. Lai Zhangping, tipsy from drinking with old Zheng until midnight, staggered home. He looked at the banana tree with resentment. Pointing at the banana tree, he cursed loudly. "If you have the ability, go find your man. Why do you want to harm my father?" After speaking, he took half a jug of gasoline, poured onto that banana tree. "Don't light a fire at all." Then a piercing howl came from the banana tree. I saw a woman struggling desperately in the fire. As for what happened later, Lai Zhangping only remembers fainting. When I woke up again, the banana tree had already been completely burned. Everyone began to advise Lai Zhangping to build the house elsewhere. Lai Zhangping is just as good at casting iron as his father. They stubbornly built the house. But at least we have been safe and sound all along. Lai Zhangping always came back wearing tattered clothes, still speaking the same words. People in the city are easily fooled. Chapter 18. The Beatty Scene at Midnight. Have you heard how chaotic the medical school is? I once witnessed a deceased newborn in the dormitory bathroom. These are the years I spent studying nursing at the medical school. At that time, the school's accommodation conditions were quite poor. That night, after classmate Zio Huey fell asleep, she kept having nightmares. She felt something pressing down on her foot. But no matter what, the eyes just can't open. Can only squint into a narrow slit. But she saw a baby crawling on her. Zio Huey found it very difficult to breathe at that moment. She only opened her eyes when her classmate called her to get up at dawn. At first, it just felt like a nightmare. I felt a pain in my neck right after getting up. It felt like something was pressing on her neck. Zio Huey's entire body was bent. I accompanied her to the school infirmary. The doctor believes Zio Huey just slept in an awkward position at night. So she applied a membrane and then put on a medicated plaster. Little did they know there was no improvement throughout the morning. Zio Huey cried and said she dreamed about a baby crawling onto her. I can also feel something sitting on my neck. The people in the dormitory began to discuss. A classmate said that one night he went to the restroom. I also saw a baby crawling out of the toilet, and he smiled at her. Other classmates also mentioned hearing rumors. A few years ago, one night, a piercing scream suddenly echoed from the bathroom in the hallway. Many students got up to check what was happening. They found a girl sitting in a pit. The girl's pajamas are covered in blood. There is a dead baby in the pit. After the girl was sent to the hospital by the school, she dropped out. Since then, many classmates have said that there is a baby in this dormitory building. The classmates in the dormitory were discussing animatedly. Hearing this, Zio Huey couldn't help but tremble. At this moment, a classmate suggested that Principal Lai seemed to understand this area. Otherwise, let's go find him and see. I helped Zio Huey to find Principal Lai. Said everything again. Principal Lai suddenly shouted at Zio Huey, "Get out of here!" Zio Huey instantly felt a lightness on her shoulder. But Principal Lai's expression was quite grim. They didn't explain anything to us either. Let's go back and get some rest. Later, I overheard classmates from the same grade discussing, when referring to Principal Lai or the teacher, the relationship with that girl who dropped out is very complicated. This is a folk story that took place in Henan. It is said that after a person dies, one needs to find a rooster that is 3 years old. And the purpose of this chicken is to guide the souls of the deceased to the Yellow Springs. The bizarre and strange nature of the story may exceed your imagination. Suggest to tag your friends to watch together. The events took place in 2010 in Zikon Township, Jiazhuo City, Henan. On this day, the villager Lai Zhongbing's father passed away. The old man is 73 years old. Unable to overcome the first hurdle in life, Master Lin in charge of the funeral told Lai Zhongbing to prepare a hidden soul chicken. But the Yin Huan chicken needs to find a rooster that is 3 years old. Lai Zhongbing searched the village for a long time, but couldn't find it. Later, I heard that the family of the head courier in our village had some. Lai Zhongbing hurriedly went out to buy chicken. He explained to the messenger after arriving. The moment the head was delivered, the expression changed immediately. Lai Zhongbing saw the rooster through the crack in the door. The proud rooster, Xinjiu Jiu, struts confidently. Even the chickens are standing tall. I heard you can buy his family's chicken to use for the hidden soul chicken. At that time, I shook my head in refusal. Later, Lai Zhongbing directly offered a high price of 500 yuan. Once the price is right, sending someone's head is done. They pretended to be in a difficult situation and nodded slightly. The funeral proceeded smoothly. Lai Zhongbing is walking at the front of the line, holding a big rooster. The entire team walked towards the graveyard amidst cries. After finishing the burial, Master Lin came to inform Lai Zhongbing, "It's time to kill the chicken and send the old man on his way." At that moment, Lai Zhongbing looked to the side and was stunned. The big rooster tied under the tree has vanished without a trace. Master Lin immediately became serious upon hearing this. If this hidden soul chicken does not die, the chicken's soul can't leave. Then the old man's spirit will always follow the big rooster. In the end, they may become restless spirits. Qian watched as the chicken ran away. Everyone can't just roam the mountains looking for a chicken. But the Lai family doesn't care. Master Lin didn't have much to say either. Unexpectedly, that very night, a strange incident occurred at Song Rentu's chicken shop. Not long after Song Ren's head hit the pillow at night, suddenly a strange noise came from the yard. So he turned around the yard with a flashlight, and his wife ran out after him. When the two arrived at the chicken coop, instantly a sense of joy surged in my heart. I didn't expect that big rooster to come back. Song Rentu felt overjoyed, but he knew this chicken couldn't stay. We can't let Lai Zhongbing find out. So he hurriedly called his wife to help catch the chickens, thinking of going to the market early tomorrow to sell. But he shouted several times. His wife never reacted at all. Song Rentu also sensed that something was off at this moment. Suddenly, his wife pushed him aside and charged forward. At this moment, his wife's eyes were hollow and lifeless, yet full of power. It felt as if he had become a different person. He walked a few steps to the chicken coop. Reach out and grab that big rooster. It's strange to say, the usually agile rooster, at that moment he was motionless, caught firmly in his wife's grasp. A terrifying scene unfolded immediately after. His wife effortlessly tore the big rooster in half with her bare hands. This completely startled Song Ren's head and nearby lights. His wife, covered in blood, looked like a demon. Until a little while later, his wife suddenly collapsed to the ground as if she were completely drained. Meanwhile, Song Rentu seemed to see the figure of an old man drifting away from his wife, and that rooster also turned into a blurred shadow, carrying the elderly person towards the west wall of their home, finally disappeared into the wall's corner. After seeing those two shadows disappear, Song Ren finally reacted. Hastily rushed to help my wife, who had collapsed on the ground. Later, the elders said it was Laileitu possessing him. Killed the hidden soul chicken with his hand. This way, the soul can be reborn with the rooster. The man in front of me is a Bailayan Jayo follower. This person's situation is strange and unpredictable. That day, he instructed his disciples to keep an eye on the two pots of water inside the house. Then they mysteriously stepped outside. The disciple looked at the two bowls locked together with great curiosity. So he stepped forward and secretly lifted it. Inside was filled with more than half a basin of water. There was a small boat made of straw on top. The apprentice found it amusing and reached out to play with it. Unexpectedly, not long after, the master returned, drenched and furious. Fooling around in the small boat nearly got me drowned. Once again, he let his disciple watch over a lamp. In the end, the disciple was extinguished. The master returned and was furious. It is said that the disciple caused him to lose sight of the path. Almost didn't make it back. The disciple held a grudge after being beaten. He got involved with one of his master's concubines. The master, upon knowing, did not expose the two, but secretly applied medicine to the snacks that the concubine often ate. The next day, after the two unsuspecting individuals consumed it, I actually turned into a fat pig. Next, the master directly called for the butcher. Butcher both pigs. Some disciples disapproved of their master's behavior. So the truth was told to the parents of the murdered disciple. Then the disciple's parents directly reported it to the authorities. Tell master that several lives have been lost due to negligence. The government has long wanted to capture him, so they dispatched a large number of officials and soldiers to capture him. In the end, he was arrested along with his wife and children. Can we go back? As the soldiers passed through a dense forest, a low growl suddenly echoed from deep within the forest. Immediately, a gigantic monster emerged from within. The monster stood about 5 or 6 jang tall and had 2 enormous tusks. The officers and soldiers were so frightened that they retreated repeatedly, none daring to step forward. Then the master in the car expressed, "My own wife can subdue monsters." The helpless officials had no choice but to release his wife. Unexpectedly, the monster grabbed the woman directly, stuffed it into his mouth, swallowed it without even chewing. The master then said again, "Let my son go out. Once he's full, he won't bother you anymore." After the officials released his son, the monster swallowed it. Finally, the master said he could have a showdown with the monster. The officials and soldiers had long been frightened. Only then can the master be released as well. The master charged directly towards the monster. As soon as he arrived in front of the monster, he was caught red-handed. Then he swallowed his master as well. After doing all this, the monster seemed to be satiated, turned around and left directly. The soldiers were terrified and collapsed to the ground. The authorities believed that this person was already dead. Then there was no further investigation. Little did they know, a few years later, someone actually saw the master on the street. It turns out their family only faked their deaths. As for whether the monster is something he raised or an illusion, then it remains unknown. It is said that dogs can protect homes and ward off evil. Among them, the black dog and the yellow dog are the most extraordinary. But have you ever seen a dog that can help its master drive away ghosts? The strangeness of the story may exceed your imagination. Cowardly friends, please squat in the toilet and watch slowly. It happened in the summer of 2009. At that time, I was still in school. That summer vacation, my parents were busy with work. Just send me to my grandpa's house in the countryside. Life in the countryside is very pleasant, without the noise and busyness of the city. It's either crazy playing with friends every day or sleeping in. Life is quite enjoyable. But during that time I encountered something strange. That means I've been haunted by a ghost. This is something I have to blame myself for. At that time I was still young and didn't understand. Once I was playing with the kids from the village. A few people are unaware of their own limits. He clumsily ran to the western side of the village to play hide and seek in the chaotic graveyard. In the midst of the chase, you stepped on quite a few grave mounds. From that day on, my nightmare has begun. After that day, as soon as I fall asleep, I arrive at a place. I don't know where that is. I only know that everything around is pitch black. And every time they would see an extraordinarily tall city tower, just like in those historical drama series, although it felt strange in my heart. But my body always involuntarily walks in. Inside is an old and dilapidated town, although there is not a single person on the street. But there are some things drifting around me. Every time I see them, I know I've fallen into the same dream again. This nightmare has lasted for 4 whole days. I feel very anxious in my dreams. At the slightest provocation, it's like a duck in a panic. But I'm not familiar with my surroundings at all. Can only run wildly in the streets. I don't know where I will ultimately escape to. Grandpa said this is all because I disturbed others' graves. And also take me to the town tomorrow morning to find someone who understands. But I feel like I can't make it to tomorrow. If this goes on, I feel like I'll either die from fright or go insane. But when those things caught me, I just woke up. Every day I wake up in extreme fear. I'm afraid to sleep again, because as long as I fall asleep, that nightmare will continue. So every time I wake up for a moment, I always feel grateful in my heart that it's good to be alive. The body craved the warmth of the sunlight outside. I don't know if it's because the dream is too eerie. As soon as I see the sunlight, it feels particularly dazzling. But the feeling of sunlight on my skin is just too wonderful. Warmed all my cold limbs. At that time, Grandpa's house had a big yellow dog. The yellow dog is named Dahuang. The character is very gentle. Usually, they don't bark or disturb the bell, and Dahuang is very close to me. Every time we meet, they come up to me excitedly. But that day, I don't know what happened. He immediately glared at me with a fierce look, and barked loudly at me. Dahuang is really close to me usually. Never has anyone been this harsh with me like today. It seems like he could pounce on me at any moment. His fierce appearance made me instinctively take a few steps back. But Dahuang watched me take a step back and became more aggressive in his shouting. It was about to pounce. I am very scared. After shouting loudly, he turned and ran. But how could I with 2 legs possibly run faster than someone with 4 legs? I was caught up by him after just running a few steps. In the blink of an eye I was knocked to the ground by Da Huang, looking at his gritted teeth so close. I was so scared that I almost cried, just when I thought I was going to be bitten by Da Huang. Suddenly, Da Huang turned his head to look elsewhere. Immediately after that, Da Huang face shouted and chased in that direction. I lay on the ground shaken, watching the figure of Da Huang chasing into the distance. I don't know what exactly happened, but unexpectedly, after being frightened this time, my surprise has actually improved a lot. No longer having that terrifying nightmare at night. Grandpa said it was Da Huang who saved me, but I was still young back then. I just can't understand the meaning of this sentence. But looking into Da Huang's eyes filled with affection for me, I believe what Grandpa said is true. Perhaps that day it wasn't me who was Big Yellow, but rather something behind me. Episode 22. Emotions are illusions. Logic is reality. The girl drew a sharp dagger. In a crazed state, she attempted to kill her boyfriend. The boyfriend was stabbed to death on the spot during the entanglement. To cover up the crime, the girl buried him in the field of dandelions. A month later, someone who looked just like my boyfriend appeared. Not only are their heights, appearances, and voices identical, even the strands of hair are identical. The scene before the girl was simply unbelievable, because her boyfriend Angie was killed and buried by her own hands. How could someone suddenly come back to life? But if not, how should the man in front of me explain? It's just strange that Angie couldn't remember anything during the police interrogation. Even she wasn't quite clear about being a public servant. But facing my beloved boyfriend, the girl couldn't help but call out his name. Angie, however, explained with a silly smile, "I'm sorry. I really can't remember." Hearing this response, the girl fell silent, but instead left here after saying goodbye to the police. Then they rushed back to the dandelion field. The dandelions across the mountains are still so beautiful, but the girl had no intention of appreciating it at all, but went straight to the place where her boyfriend was buried. The girl searched for a long time, but couldn't find the place, although the girl was filled with confusion. But that night she still found Angie, because she has come to understand. Decided to bring Angie home with me. She directly stepped forward and grabbed Angie's hand. Meeting Angie, there was no resistance. This made her more convinced that this was an opportunity granted by the heavens to bring Angie back to my side, even to forget the bad memories of the past. The girl moved to another city with Angie. Until this day, the two of them strolled through the food street as sweetly as usual. Along the way, Angie said she would go buy some barbecue first. The girl wanted to buy a cup of juice. But when she arrived at the juice shop, what unfolded before her left her completely stunned. Suddenly, another Angie appeared in the juice shop. The girl stared blankly at the man in front of her. To confirm the man's identity, she instinctively called out to Angie, but this man showed no reaction at all. At this moment, the waitress nearby also noticed something was off with the girl, so he introduced himself to the girl. Xiao Zhai arrived half a month ago. At that time, she remembered nothing. It was just that the boss confirmed her hand just in time, which is why she was allowed to stay and work. Then he asked the girl if she was her friend. But at this moment, the girl is already in a state of confusion. She couldn't understand why both of them had appeared a month ago. Why is it all about amnesia? The various strange occurrences began to make the girl increasingly anxious, until I saw a moment posted by Angie's younger sister. It clearly shows that she and Angie are helping Grandma's assistant. A group photo of several people was also attached. The girl was completely panicked upon seeing this. Angie is right here with me. How could he be with her younger sister? But what followed only made the girl more and more alarmed. Because of the information shown in Angie's sister's social media posts, Angie seems to have never left their home. At this moment, the girl felt like her mind was about to split apart. He even secretly ran to Angie's house to investigate. I really saw another Angie. The girl walked with a heart full of unease. She also doesn't know why things turned out this way. It seems that after Angie passed away, everything started to become strange. At that moment, the investigating officer suddenly approached the girl again, and directly get straight to the point with her. Since Angie went missing last time, they have now discovered 5 Angie. The girl was instantly shocked. This news was truly terrifying for her, but the police immediately confirmed the 5. 4 of them are in this province, and 1 is in the neighboring province. And there are several unresolved cases still under investigation. They all share the same characteristic of looking exactly alike. They just don't know their own past. I don't even know where I am. Hearing this, the girl was already sweating profusely. The police officer saw the girl's expression. I know there must be many hidden truths within. So I immediately pressed her for the truth of the matter. Under the inner unease and the officer's authority, the girl ultimately spoke honestly about what had happened. But strangely, the police could not find the burial site mentioned by the girl based on the clues. Not a trace was left. In the end, I could only return empty-handed. And because there is no evidence, the police had no choice but to release the girl without charges. When the girl returned home, but found Angie painting the walls at home, a warm scene made the girl feel very cozy. So I simply stopped thinking too much. Decide to live well together with Angie. Little did I expect. 6 months later, Angie suddenly passed away due to an illness. At the same time, all the Angie also died. The girl buried Angie in the field of dandelions on the hillside. But when she arrived to pay her respects to Angie, she discovered that the place where Angie was buried unexpectedly grew a large dandelion. At this moment, the girl seemed to understand something, because at this moment her gaze fell upon. Each of those dandelion seeds is a little Angie. This is a strange incident that took place in Sichuan. 3 men came to the ancient temple in search of treasure, unintentionally angered the statue of the Buddha in the temple. The next day, all 3 of them died in the temple. The level of strangeness may exceed your imagination. Suggest to tag your friends to watch together. The story begins in the 1990s. Chonglong Mountain in Nijiang, Sichuan. In a valley by the river, there is an ancient temple whose existence is unknown for how long. Because it is a place rarely visited, there is usually no incense burning. Moreover, the deity enshrined inside is neither Buddha nor Guanyin. Instead, it was an unknown, malevolent statue of a Buddha. There is a man named Lai Zhongping in the ancient temple. I kept sweeping the floor inside. Almost never goes down the mountain except for necessary purchases. Someone outside said that the reason he stayed there, it's because there's treasure in the ancient temple. Some people with ulterior motives have come to seek me out. However, nothing was found. Over time, no one became interested in this place. But suddenly, one day, 3 men walked in front of the temple gate. The man in charge said to Lai Zhongping, "They got lost while playing in the mountains. I want to borrow a night in the temple." They led the 3 people into the temple. After the 3 of them walked in, they didn't want to. There was no rush to take a break. Instead, they started looking around the temple. Lai Zhongping thought that since they were just having fun, perhaps curious about the temple. Soon the sky darkened. There are no electric lights in the temple. Lai Zhongping was worried that the three people wouldn't adapt, so prepare to send a flashlight over. It's much more convenient to get up at night to use the bathroom. As Lai Zhongping was about to open the guest room, a wooden stick suddenly struck him hard on the back of the head. In the moment of fading away, Lai Zhongping saw that the ones who had attacked him were the three people who had come to stay today. When Lai Zhongping woke up again, already tightly bound to the pillar of the great hall, "I kindly took you in. How can you do this? Stop talking nonsense to me. Where is the treasure in the temple? Hurry up and tell us. This broken temple has no treasures. Don't listen to those people spreading rumors." What I responded to him was a heavy punch. "You don't want to say, do you? Then I'll hit you as you said." After speaking, each of the three struck Lai Zhongping with a punch. He was tormented for over 2 hours. But Lai Zhongping still insisted that there were no treasures in the temple. This time, they completely enraged the three of them. I planned to kill Lai Zhongping directly. At this critical moment, Lai Zhongping seems to be behind the three. Suddenly saw a tall figure, upon closer inspection. That was actually the Buddha statue I had worshipped for 20 years. At this moment, Lai Zhongping could no longer hold on. Once again, I fell into a coma. This time, Lai Zhongping didn't know how long he had been unconscious. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the bodies of the three people, and everyone's fatal flaw is the same. All were pierced through with a big hole. It's just the location of the wounds that is different. Lai Zhongping recalled the terrifying Buddha statue he had seen just before losing consciousness. So I looked curiously and with doubt towards the direction of the Buddha statue. The fierce Buddha statue still looked the same as before. The demon-slaying staff in hand is already stained with blood. Lai Zhongping instantly understood the situation. I was saved by the Buddha statue. From that day on, Lai Zhongping has stayed in the temple for over 20 years. He only felt relieved to leave when the people from the Cultural Relics Bureau arrived. It is said that later, the relevant departments wanted to turn the ancient temple into a tourist area. However, a pile of gold, silver, and jewels was found at the base of the Buddha statue. This is the only ghost delivery incident recognized by the Hong Kong government at a tea restaurant. 4 horse friends had already passed away more than 10 days ago. But every day, he would call the tea restaurant to order the same 4-person meal. Strangely, each time they would settle the bill with Ming coins. But the delivery guy just can't seem to tell. It wasn't until later, when the police were called, that the chilling truth was revealed. This is the shocking ghost delivery incident at a Hong Kong Cha Chan Teng in 1989. At that time, all 118 media outlets in Hong Kong reported on it. The English book has already testified in the comments section. Dog head or AIT, the honest person is respectable. The incident took place in the North District of the New Territories in December. There is an old-fashioned tea restaurant called Ko Yong Jai. One day, the shop received a phone call for an order. The young man quickly noted down the address and started delivering the food. Soon arrived at the delivery address of Zixiu Garden. Then the young man rang the doorbell, but half a day passed without a reply. Moreover, there were many advertisements scattered everywhere at the entrance. It seems that no one has lived here for a long time. After that, the young man pressed for another 10 minutes, but there was still no response. Just as the young man thought he had the wrong address and was about to leave, suddenly it opened with a click. You can hear someone at the door unlocking the security chain. Then a small crack in the door opened. It's pitch black inside, and I have no idea what's going on. I only heard a low, hoarse voice coming through. Let the young man put the takeout at the door, then handed over a banknote to settle the bill. and that person hid behind the door as if they were afraid of being seen. This strange behavior made the young man feel very puzzled. He held the banknote in his hand and looked at it more than 20 times. Only after confirming their